Hi everybody. We're going to start our box building project. It takes a few days to actually create. It's not the largest project, but you can't really make slabs and expect them to stand up unless you wait a day in between, or a couple days. So you can see here on this white piece of paper, I actually made a template for what I want my box sides to look like. You can do this too. It's a really great way for you to judge if your slabs are going to be the right size. So you need 6. The bottom of the screen is a little cut off, but I made a square example and a rectangular example. For the square example, you just cut out the exact same 6 shapes. But for the rectangle, if you were interested in making a different size, you have to make sure you measure them right. And you can also tape them together, so that's a great way to just ensure that it is actually going to work. You might tape them together and realize you cut one of the sides way too short or way too long. So this is just a nice little preparation before you make your own clay slabs for your box building. So after I noticed that I pretty much had them the right size, I'm just taking apart my little box here that I had taped together. And I'm just going to show you the 3 pieces of paper that I will need to use almost as a stencil to outline my clay. So I'll need 2 of each of these, 6 total. Remember, you need a top, a bottom, and then the 4 sides. And you can work with paper towel, you can work with wax paper, anything you can set on your table so that you don't accidentally get clay that sticks to the table. My rolling pin is dry. You want to make sure your rolling pin has no water on it, and you want to make sure you did not wet your clay. So the goal right here is to roll out your clay in a circular fashion so that it's turning more into a circle. What I'm doing with this example, and I do a better example later, but with this example, I'm picking it up, and anytime I think it looks like it's becoming a rectangle, I roll it the other direction. I'm not too worried about it having my fingerprints or anything like that in it right now. It doesn't matter. But you want to think circle. Also, at some point, you're going to pick it up and see how thick it is. If you're worried, you might want to keep it the thickness of your pinky, since this is a new project and you may not have ever constructed anything with slabs. Mine is extremely thin, so I don't know if you're going to want to make it too thin. You'll find out it's really hard to connect the slabs. When you're ready, you'll put one of your pieces of paper down and use it as a stencil, which just means you're going to cut around it. When we cut a slab, you do not cut around the rectangle and turn your X-Acto knife. Instead, you cut off the pieces of clay around it and you remove those first. So I didn't pick up my actual side until the last minute. So you cut around it and you pick up the piece you're going to keep at the end. So here I'm going to make 2 because I need 2 of each size. I'm cutting straight through. When you have really wet clay, if you try to cut around that rectangle by itself, it will not be a rectangle anymore. It'll be a blob. So this is the best way to cut anything out. You basically cut out the background. Also, you don't want to lose your pieces of scrap because that is what you're going to make the rest of your box out of. And you might even use it to make the design on the top for the handle. So if you're worried it's not going to be plastic enough, you can smush it in with one of your other cubes of clay. Sometimes that helps keep it plastic. But also I'm about to roll the rest of my art, so I'm just putting it on the top. I pressed it in as much as I could, and now I'm rolling again. So I roll a little bit, I turn it, I roll a little bit, and I turn it, and I just keep doing that to try to roll it in a circle. That's how you're going to make sure your slabs stay nice and they shrink back appropriately. It's okay if the edges are a weird blob shape. It's also okay if you accidentally roll the edges too thin. We try to cut out through the center, around the center of our slab. So let's say at the very end you roll it and the very top just flattened out really, really, really thin. Don't worry, you're not going to use the edges. So that's fine. You could roll it again if you want. You can see right there, I flattened the very top out too thin. I'm not going to use that, so it doesn't matter. I know that the center of this slab is the same consistency. You never want to get clay stuck to your rolling pin, so you have to take it off immediately. Any clay you leave on your rolling pin will start to indent texture into your art. So it will make a indent and a stamp in that shape onto all the slabs you roll out from here on out. So if you ever see clay on your rolling pin, pick it off, don't wipe it with water, scratch it off and dry clean the rolling pin, or else you'll get little sticks of clay indented into the rest of your art. So again, when you cut, you want to cut around the shape and piece off and take off the background. So there's one of the sides, and you'll see I don't try to go get the rectangle, it'd be impossible. Instead, I take off the pieces around it. And now it's really easy to pick up. My paper is not sticking to my clay. It's not that wet. When you roll it, you shouldn't have water on it. After you roll it, you shouldn't have water on it. Right now, there's no water on it. It's just nice plastic clay, easy to work with. If you at any point accidentally get water on this, you have to let it dry so it's not muddy, or else you won't be able to roll it. All right, so there is my fourth slab that I'll use. I cut into my wax paper by accident, so I might get a new piece or see if there's space. And remember, all those scraps are used. We will use them for every future project. Even if you don't use it right now for this one, you're gonna use it for the next one. We don't waste any clay. The only clay we would throw in the trash is clay that dried out. Okay, so this is my last slab. This is a great way to roll. Turn it a little bit, roll, turn it a little bit, roll, and it should look like a circle when I'm pressing it. This is like the best rolling of all the three. It almost looks like a circle. And here I'm going to cut my last two slabs. You may not have room at some point and you have to roll it again, that's fine. Maybe you just do one slab at a time, that's okay too. I know my box is pretty small, so I can fit 2 rectangles on one slab. And again, you want to save all that and use it for your future second or next step of the project. If you're not sure how much you'll need and you don't need to use it right away, just press it back into another cube of clay and put that back in your bag. So this is about the time where you would set your clay out to dry a little bit. What we will do is just leave it out to air dry just like this. If you tried to build a box right now, you can see my wall immediately fell over. It's a little too soft to build a wall. So what you want to do is just let it air dry for the rest of class. If you finished late, you might want to just watch it while you're at home and let it air dry for maybe 30 minutes. Don't put it in the sun, then it will harden too fast. But if you just let it sit, they're not touching each other, they're just sitting. That's what you'll do, and then we'll put them in a bag. So this is actually how we wrap our slabs. We stack them up from largest to smallest, and we put a paper towel in between each. The clay cannot touch each other or they'll stick to each other and probably become connected forever like one giant slab. So each of these has one paper towel between the previous one. And as long as the largest one's on the bottom, they fit perfectly together. They shouldn't change shape. It's almost like a pyramid of slabs with paper towel between each. A paper towel and clay sandwich. And that's how we will bag them up until next class. And so they'll just stay in the bag. If you didn't wait your 30 minutes, you could leave the bag open for 30 minutes. But then when you're ready to clean up officially, or maybe you've cleaned up, but you started your second class for the day, or third class, yeah, those are just a little too soft to build. And sometimes they're even softer. So you can test it anytime you want, take one out. It's supposed to be leather hard, a little softer than leather hard, which means it wouldn't just fall over. It holds its shape. So this is what we're doing today. And after, about 30 minutes, you can bag it up and put it away. Also, the paper towel will help suck up some water overnight. So then if you have time today and you would like to make the handle, you can start creating the object that you'll use as a handle. It's the same rules for anything that we've made up until now. If you make something that has a couple attachments, you have to make sure you blend the seams together. And if you make something that's too big, you have to hollow it out. So that first sphere I made was pretty tiny. I put it up to my thumb. It was about the thickness of my thumb, so I would leave it. The second one is a lot larger, and it's a much larger than my thumb, which means there's a potential for it never to dry out right in the middle, and it might explode in the kiln. There's also a potential for there to be a lot of hidden air bubbles. The larger the chunk of clay, the more air that can be hidden inside. So if this is yours, all you have to do is take any kind of loop tool, or if you don't have a loop tool, really anything you could scrape things out with, and flip it upside down and scrape some clay out. Just like this. It shouldn't change the form that you made at all, so when you flip it back over, it should look exactly like how you started. This was just a sphere, a blobby sphere. But you can see hopefully that it didn't change the outside, but now the inside is a little bit thinner, a little bit lighter, and now you have more clay to add back to your bag of clay. So if every time we make anything you did this, you would have a lot of clay. And that's it. All right, good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.